Welcome to the Spa Girls podcast, the self-publishing podcast for authors. You're in the right place for the best writing, marketing, and publishing advice, plus interviews with industry experts and best-selling authors. I'm Cheryl Phipps.
I'm Shah Barrett.
And I'm Trudy J. Hello, everyone.
Hi there.
Hello. And this week we have a very special guest. We've got Kaci Rose. Say
Hey,
hello.
Casey.
Hey, Casey.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
No
Oh,
you're
worries.
so welcome.
Total pleasure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read out your bio, and then we are going to get
Okay.
dig into the topic, which is all about universe world building for romance authors. But first, the bio. Steamy Contemporary Romance author Kaci Rose runs on coffee, chocolate, and Oreos. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who do the same thing and can feel good about that. She's also a mum to 5 kids, a dog lover, and a bookworm. She loves romance books and has been jotting down ideas since she was in high school and is now putting all her ideas on paper. She loves her book boyfriends with tattoos, muscles, beards, and a little bit dirty. She believes in satisfying happily ever afters with a lot of steam along the way. Welcome to the spa.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into writing and self-publishing, Kaci. Give us your origin story.
So I think like many authors, I've been writing things down since I was a little kid. I loved writing stories in school when it was time to write stuff for language arts. It's called something else now. But then when I graduated high school, I started working writing like ghost articles just to make some extra money because I wanted to write. Back then it wasn't, trad publishing was the only way to get published, and I just felt that was just kind of out of my grasp because grammar was not my strong point. So, I had to
High five on
yeah,
that.
I had to do a lot of editing, and I had a good friend that helped with editing and stuff. And that transformed into I did a lot of ghostwriting for the next uh 5 years or so. And then that transformed into go more and more ghostwriting on stuff that just I did a lot of travel writing. I was able to put my real name on a few things. And then in 2020, the world shut down. And all of my ghostwriting, which at that point was travel ghostwriting articles and stuff, kind of went away. And I was like, well, I don't have anything else to lose. Why don't I write that idea? And in March of 2020, I published my first book thinking I'm going to publish the series that's been floating in my head for 10 years. And if it tanks, then at least I can say I did it. And it did not tank to my surprise.
Nice.
And I kept going, and here I am.
So that
I
first
think that's a
series,
simplified version.
yeah. Easy as that. No worries at all. That first
Wow.
series that you published, what was it
Yes.
like? Was it Mountain Men or was it something different?
It was actually my Cowboys of Rock Springs, which to this day, when people go back and say, I love that series, I'm like, oh, I made every mistake in the book in that series. It's like I cringe when people are like, that's how I found you. And I'm like, I write better now, I promise.
Isn't that so funny how
Yeah.
we go back to that first book and that's the one that kind of people love and you go, oh, but I write better
Mhm.
now. Like, why didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think there's something like often there's a vulnerability to those first books, and it's something that
Mhm.
really connects with people. And so
Yeah.
in the
Especially if it's a
characterized,
story that's been in your head for 10 years. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
that's that. Yeah. So where did you go from there?
And I
Like
think,
you go.
oh, sorry, I was gonna say, and I think that a lot of it too is you're not afraid to break the rules because you don't really know what the rules
Yeah.
are in
Yeah.
those first few books. And I think that translates well on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So where did you go from there? What happened after the cowboy books? How many were there?
So then I was once I started realizing that books were selling, I'm like, well, I need to figure out and know what I'm doing. So I listened to um all the podcasts under the sun. I listened to you guys, I listened to a lot of the writing gals. I would just listen to anything and everything I can get my hands on because it was easy for me to do that while I was in the car running kids around back and forth to school, while I was, making dinner and everything. So the podcasts were really easy for me. And I soaked up all the information I could. And what people kept saying was, oh, interconnected standalones, interconnected standalones. And that was before people were really clarifying that it was a series of interconnected standalones. So I wrote 4 standalone books that were not connected to each other or any previous book that I had written in any way. And then, one would do well, but then there would be no boost to my backlist. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? So I did a spin-off of my cowboy series. So the first cowboys followed a family of brothers. So then I did a spin-off of their friends. And my income went back up. I was like, okay. So I'm like, okay, so there's something about them all being connected. So that was at the end of 2021. And at the end of 2021, I had hit 6 figures and I had no idea how. So I dug into all the data. I said, what did I do? Because I wasn't really, I mean, I was running ads, but I didn't feel like they were good ads compared to what the experts said were good ads. Um, and that's when I realized that the last few books in my cowboy series were very much interconnected, where I had pulled in characters from those standalone books, and I had pulled in characters from the previous series. Um, and readers were saying how they loved how there was this little Easter egg. And I said, I was a reader beforehand, and I loved when I would sit there and like the one that comes to mind is Kylie Ryan. She had a tattoo artist, a couple books in a tattoo artist series, and then when she did another one, I can't remember the series name, but she did. There was a tattoo, and she brought the tattoo artist into that series, and I went crazy for it because I loved that book. I was like, I wonder if. So 2022, I went in intentional with doing all the crossover stuff, and I more than doubled my income. And I went, I guess I'm onto something. And I've been doing it intentionally ever since.
That's awesome. I love that. I love the idea of like stumbling across something or seeing a connection to what's doing well and then figuring out and then doing it on purpose. That's fantastic. That's
And I
awesome.
also think the key is that you understand why it does well because you have been in that reader position and you love that. I totally get it. I always remember, I mean, we're talking back in the dark ages, like last century, when I was reading Harlequin, and they didn't really have connected books, but every now and then there'd be an author that would slip in previous characters from a previous book that they had published, and it would be like, a secret sort of between me and the author kind of thing. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, you'd feel that you're special or something.
I have a book like that with my cozies because they are all interconnected, and all my series are interconnected in that they're all set in Oregon. But one of the stories, she was actually running a competition, and the bakers from the other series all came to be in that competition, and people love it. People just love it. So yeah.
Yeah,
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing, people.
It is.
Catching up with old friends, right? Catching up with old friends.
So that's awesome. So I want to talk about that in a minute. But first of all, I want to get just a little bit of an idea of your processes and how you write and things like that. So how many books are you publishing a year, and how long are they normally?
Okay, so I do some Insta Love shorts. I publish between 6 to 8 of those a year. And those are usually roughly like 20K. They're really easy for me to do. I can usually knock them out in about a week or so.
Oh, wow.
But then I have to go back and do all the editing and everything. Because I'm a really messy drafter. And then right now I'm down to 3 to 4 full lengths a year. Ranging between 60 to 80K. I was doing a lot more back, COVID time when you didn't have anything else to do. That year, I think I looked it up. It was almost 750,000 words that year.
Wow.
With all the books and everything. And I released over 15 full length books, upwards of 80K. And you burn out very easily when you try to do it that fast.
That's like crazy talk.
Yeah. So I've been working on intentionally slowing down the amount of books that I'm putting out, but being very intentional of wrapping up the series, things that I had those open storylines that are open, and kind of pulling everybody into like one like reader journey path, so that everybody's kind of on the same path. They're not waiting for this series over here and this series over here.
Yeah.
Mm,
And
that's
and do you
clever.
see a positive benefit from that? You can see that that's working in terms of tidying it all up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have again I have a lot of crossover characters, so I've been very intentional of pulling people from one series to another, even though my cowboys don't really match the same vibe as my mountain men because it's more the mountain men are more suspenseful, but being able to do the overlap, I get a lot of the crossover readers. So being very intentional as I get ready to wrap up a series of that last book, really pulling them into the series that I'm getting ready to be releasing all of next year. Um, as I'm doing that, I'm seeding in different characters and I'm already getting people asking about characters and I'm like, just wait, it's coming, just wait, I can't write that
Just be patient.
fast.
That's awesome.
So
That's
what's
awesome when
this?
they start asking, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think the sweet spot is with how many books in a series?
I have found about six
Okay.
full length in my full length series. I
Yeah.
find that shorts you can do a little bit more because readers read through them a lot faster. They'll
Mhm.
usually read those, in a night before bed. Um, but my full lengths, definitely six. My Mountain Men is hitting the six full lengths. I'm wrapping that one up this year, and it'll have six full lengths, but then it has two novellas. Um,
Right.
and I found that now as number six or number eight's getting ready to come out, technically it's eight. I'm seeing that decline in the series pre-orders, in the series and everything. So that's my sign that it's time to be wrap it up and I can move them into another. I'm going to be doing another series set in the same town.
Mhm.
So while I'm wrapping it up, I'm kind of moving them to the next thing. I find with shorts that six is almost not enough for a series sometimes.
Okay.
I work with Dylan Crush, who also writes as Eve London, and we have a Insta Love series that we're doing set in Mustang Mountain. I write six of them, and then she writes six, and that's a series of 12 that we do, and we do
Okay.
one a year. And that seems to be a good spot for us. But I know that a lot of Insta Love readers will do about eight to 12 in a series for the shorts.
Yeah.
And then you would box those into how many?
Mhm.
Maybe
Um,
maybe
we
four?
so my bot my books are wide, so I have a little bit more leeway with what I
Mhm.
do. But I will always do a series starter box set, so it's usually the first three books in a series. And that's a series starter box set, and that's the one that I will do a lot of free promo on because usually my first book in series is free anyway. Um,
Right. That makes sense.
and
Yeah.
then if it's six books, I will put those all into one box set.
Mhm.
Um, And then with the Insta Love shorts, we tend to do six in one, six in the other. But then we'll do a huge omnibus as well. That is not available on Amazon because they cap you at $9.99 and we
Mhm.
charge more than that. Um, but then I will also do different trope box sets. So once like my
Mm.
cowboys, a lot of those are friends to lovers. So I did a friends to lovers. I have a rock star box set, so I'm able to put them in different ones so that I can pull trope readers, which read a lot different than series or author readers do.
It's such a clever idea.
It
I
is.
love
It's clever.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really clever. Do you publish the Insta Loves under the same pen name, Casey?
I do. Um, I took my cowboys and moved them to Kaci Rose
Mm-hmm.
because I found that my cowboys are I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but the most tame of my books.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of those readers were not crossing over.
Yeah.
And I wanted to keep my also bots, keep them as clean as possible
Mm-hmm.
with the
Yeah.
Cowboys.
Yeah.
So those are under, but it's still me. And then I kept the Insta Love under there because I hadn't intended on writing a bunch of them. It just kind of
Mm-hmm.
happened.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I haven't found any issues. My readers, readers are very smart. They know that, oh, if the book is priced at this, it's a short, but if it's
Mm.
priced here, it's a full length.
Yeah.
So
Is there
they've
much
been very easy.
crossover? Do the short readers read your longer stuff and vice versa?
Yes, especially when I put a lot of the characters for the full length. So my Mountain Men do a lot of crossovers because that's my best-selling series.
Mhm.
And so then they get hooked on one of the characters in the shorts and they go back and it's nothing for full-length readers to pick up a novella. They don't mind, in my
Mhm.
experience. And then with like my military, those are very emotional and they take a toll on me when I write them. So I have ended the series with the full length. So now I'm doing it's Oakside Military Heroes. So I'm doing Oakside shorts. So it's going to be 4 book novellas that are easier for me to write, but still being able to continue the series.
That's
Oh,
so
that's
pretty.
clever. Yeah.
Super clever.
Connecting them
Yeah.
together, that's
Oh,
awesome.
I
And
love
what
your brain,
prices
Kaci.
can we ask what you would put your shorts at compared to your full length novels?
So right now my shorts are at $2.99 for like those are usually around 20K. And then my full lengths that are in a series are $4.99 right now. And those are usually 50 to 60K. And then my standalones, which I don't write anymore, but those that are, upwards of 80 to 100K are at $5.99. I am looking at possibly upping my prices by $1 across the board, because I have not upped my prices in almost 3 years.
Mm.
And I'm watching other authors do it and the market's sustaining and holding it. So I think
Yeah.
I might be able to. I'm going to experiment with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely worth a
yeah.
try, right? The number of people
I
who
think
say
that
I've upped my prices and no change. It was kind of,
Yeah.
you may as well.
And
I
your
mean, I haven't
short,
done it because I write shorter, but that 50 to 60, that could go up to $5.99 easy, and I don't think you'd have any pushback at all.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the shorts are also wide because that's kind of somewhat unusual. Often the Insta Love tend to be a heavy KU kind of
Yeah.
domination.
It was. I started in KU. So I did have KU, but I transitioned wide in the middle of 2021 when I started seeing a lot of people getting their accounts banned because their books had been pirated.
Yeah.
And that scared me.
Mm.
So I took my stuff wide slowly. And then I just made the decision to go all wide, I think by 2022.
Hmm.
Um, and I haven't really had any issues, but then again, all my stuff is tied together with all my other series, so that doesn't seem to be
Yeah.
a problem. I've done some Insta-Love collaborations that definitely start out in KU. So I do put them in KU usually for 90 days. Sometimes I'll do 2 terms and then I pull them wide.
Yeah.
But I haven't done any of those in a little while.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of
Yeah.
self-publishing, right? You can make these decisions and
Yeah.
do what works for you.
And so, and
Yeah.
wide works for the shorties. Like you've found that, like if they're mostly or usually in KU, then are you making similar amount of money being wide? Is it?
I'm making way more money than I
Way
did in
more.
KU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
In all fairness, I also middle of last year, started my direct store. And I offer those on there and doing them in bundles. Readers love that because
Yeah.
they can get them cheaper than they can, at any of the other retailers. I'm also in Kobo Plus,
Yes.
and I've been teaching my readers about Kobo Plus, and a lot of my readers now are also Kobo Plus and Kindle Unlimited readers. But going wide also allows me to put my stuff in libraries, and a lot of people that can't afford to not have Kobo Plus, they have learned how to request books in libraries.
Yeah.
So that's still a huge learning curve as well.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. And we had Juliet in Banks who writes full length, but she started wide from the start, but she does a lot of education around with readers. I mean that in a gentle way, not in a teacher student way, but
Yeah.
about for instead of KU, here's Kobo Plus, and this is so. The more people, the more authors out there doing that, I think it works well for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm seeing this transition with readers wanting to support authors. So like, how can I best support you? And so when you tell them that Kobo Plus is better for authors because there's no exclusivity, because you get paid for rereads, and all these, and it's cheaper than KU, and you can do Kobo Plus for audiobooks for cheaper than what KU is now. They're all excited. And so
Yeah.
many of them are like, oh, now there's all these new authors that they haven't been able to read in KU. And they get really excited over it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, it must be like that. There must be people in so words, Trudy, in Kobo Plus, who
Mhm.
are not obviously in KU, so it's offering them a
Yeah.
whole new range of
Mhm.
authors that they can still get for that kind of one price. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it like that from a reader's perspective. It's like being on Netflix and you feel like you've watched everything on Netflix and then you have to find another. Anyway,
Yeah.
so let's hook back into universe world building. So
Okay.
so what is it well, let's just what is the definition of that? Like what is it exactly that you do to create this universal world that people are wanting to
Mhm.
come back to? Like how does that all work?
So, my definition of the universe world building is having all of your stories set in the same universe. Um, it's not world building. World building, I feel like, is different with each book and each series. So that's separate. If you think about, you know, you can have my Mountain Men are set in a small town in Montana. And they are kind of that book kind of encompasses just, Montana and everything. But then my military are set in a small town in Georgia across the country. And but there's crossover because the Mountain Men kind of will send and help with donations to the military, or they'll do crossovers, one time I can go over, I have tons of examples, but you just cross over a character. Um, my military being in Georgia, I had a small series set in North Carolina, which was a few hours away, and it was a movie star, and he did some promo for the military stuff. And he wrote one of the wounded soldiers to kind of give him some encouragement. So being able to do the back and forth, um, where they don't necessarily interact in every book, but you flip on the radio and your rock star band from the standalone that you wrote is on
Love
the
that.
radio in the series that you're writing.
Perfect. Yeah.
So clever. I love that.
Yeah, just making that intentional
Mm.
connection with everything.
Okay. So that's
Yeah.
intriguing because they're not. So in my mind, I think we've had other authors on who've like set them all on a single mountain or whatever. Like
Hmm.
there's a connection by physical space, but you're not even talking
Yeah.
about that. It's just connecting
Mhm.
through whatever means you can
Yeah.
through the books.
Yeah.
Do you try and do something every book?
Yes, I do. So I had a road trip book that I wrote that it was originally going to be in an anthology, and the anthology fell through, but I'd already written the book. So I put it out, and it is set. It starts in Illinois, which I had at the time Zero Series set in. And it's road tripping down Route 66 to California. And I'm like, I have no idea how, because it's not set in one area. It's to her brother's wedding. I'm like, how am I going to pull this in? I'm like, well, Route 66 goes through Texas, and my cowboys are set in Texas. So the hero went to college with one of my cowboys, and they met for lunch.
Mm.
Um, and I was able to bring them in that way. And it was just a little thing, and it was to one of the cowboy heroes that people are wanting me to write that I haven't written yet.
Mm.
So it was just that little nod to them being able to see him, then pulling them in that way. I've done crossover from Insta Love to full length as well. So my Insta Love that I write with Dylan, um, we had a last year in one of the series in my August book, he was a wounded hero, and he had come from the military, was wounded during his service time. Well, my Oakside series is based around wounded heroes who and the rehabilitation and that transition from service to civilian life. And so he had been and interacted with all these people off page, and then left, but I was able to bring one of the guys from Georgia to Montana to kind of be like checking in on him, like, you fell off the face of the earth. What happened? Are you okay? And I can go and look at my reviews on that book, and everyone's like, I can't believe a crossover from Oakside, and oh my gosh, Noah came. I can't believe Noah was there. It was so nice to see him and have a little update on, him and his family, and like that's it's just in all the reviews, and readers love it because especially if they know, and then if some readers are getting excited and a reader has not gone that, they're like, well, I want in on the secret. Like, where do I start? And so then it pulls them to that book.
Yeah.
And the key is making sure that you have those books listed in the back matter. So anybody that you mention as a crossover, I don't care if it's the band that happens to play a random song on the radio, if that band has their own book, like mine does, then they should be mentioned as, hey, check out the band's story or this person's, story in this book.
So
And
you
that should
actually
be
say
listed
that.
in the
Yeah.
back matter.
You're not just
Yeah.
listing the name, you're saying like, hey, look, did you hear the
Yeah.
radio? The
Connecting
song on
it.
the
Yeah.
radio, this is the band and this is their story.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So when Noah made the appearance, I was like, you can get Noah and Lexi's full story in Saving Noah, um and I forget exactly how I'd have to go back and look. I've experimented with different ways of wording it, but I always do my bonus epilogue and then the next book in the series and then any crossovers. And there's been some times where I've had 3 or 4 crossover books that just kind of get listed by my character.
Mm. That's
That's a
fantastic.
cool idea. Yeah.
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 And do people mention that they discovered the next book purely just by just by finding
Yeah.
you?
And a lot of times I will go and when I'm promoting books, I will say, hey, so like my rock star band was one of those standalones that I wrote early in my career that I was like, it links to nothing. I don't know what to do. So I worked kind of backwards with that book. I took the one of the security guys and he was security. He was mentioned as prior military. Well, guess what? He was now in Oakside in my military series. So I wrote a novella. I call it a bridge book, where it was a novella that had his backstory. So it bridged my standalone to my military series, even though it doesn't really fall in any particular order in my catalog. Um, and then I linked that band in another standalone that was not linked to anything by going back and changing it that band sang at the wedding of that couple at the end of the book. I have another Rockstar Romance that was a standalone time travel because, why not
Why not?
completely
Why
confuse my
not?
readers there. But so there was in that book later they were doing a cover band was singing that guy's songs later on. Trying not to give too much away on that one, but it was that band doing the cover band. And I was able to go back and change just a couple names in that book to link to that other Rockstar book. So I don't recommend going back and making big changes to link
No,
books, but if you can
no.
go in and just change a name, then even that little name and then putting it in the back matter will be enough to intrigue readers.
Can I just touch on that for a second, the back matter of the book, because what you've
Yes.
said kind of flies in the face of what we've been told for the last few years, which, as we know, is up and down and works different for different people. But this idea that we only put one call to action in the back of our book, so they've finished the story, maybe there's a bonus epilogue, and then boom, you're leading them to the next book, hopefully, maybe a newsletter sign up or whatever. But you're saying, no, get the next book by all means, but what about these other ones? And
Yes.
I'm fascinated by that, and it's clearly working for you. So hats off to
So
you.
I was just listening to a talk by Skye Warren. I think it was her breakout novel talks that she's recently doing. And she actually mentioned having up to 3 different links in the back of the back matter. And I was like, hey, I'm doing that. I feel really good about myself.
Exactly.
Yeah, but definitely I strongly do recommend having the bonus epilogue that captures them onto your newsletter list and kind of extends the storyline. And that's if you have a bonus epilogue, I fully believe that should be your first link. Get them onto your newsletter because you give them that bonus epilogue, but then you get another ability to do more back matter at the end of the bonus epilogue. So you can then link again book 2. You can link again those books that have been mentioned at the end. So while they may just gather the epilogue, they may not see the rest of your back matter. You can catch them again in the back matter of the bonus epilogue because now you're not linking to a bonus epilogue, you're linking to book 2, book 2 or 3 or whatever you are in the series. And then you're linking to those linked books. But a lot of times I know I go back and I will read the back matter after, and I guess it's also part of an author, but even as a reader beforehand, I was always read the back matter because I want to know what the author has to say, and then I would go and do what I want to do and then come back. Um, so I feel like there's a lot of people that do that too. They'll see the, oh, so and so, okay, well, hang on, let me go get my bonus epilogue, and then they'll pre-order or they'll buy and then go and read the bonus epilogue.
Is it? I wonder if it's a different kind of thing when you think about it. Like, as a reader, when you've read this book and you've loved it and you've loved the characters,
Mhm.
and I do this.
Mhm.
I'll be like, I'll go and research stuff. Like, I'll flick off and I'll go, right, okay, so I want to find out more about this author and what other books they have and whatever else, versus just someone who's
Mhm.
trying to make a buying decision. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like maybe
Yeah.
they've got more invested when it's a book, and maybe we have that opportunity
Mhm.
to kind of, and especially the way you're doing those links, you're not just putting a link saying, buy this book now because it's the next one. You're saying, did you see
Yeah.
that moment where these two guys met up for lunch? Well, that guy has a
Mhm.
story. Well, not yet, but
Yeah.
soon, whatever. Like, that might
Mhm.
be a difference versus
Yeah.
like when we're told, only do one call to action. Maybe that is just because
Mhm.
because that was always because it confuses people, right? If you
Mhm.
get too
Then they
many
might not do
choices, you make
anything.
none. Yeah, you make no change,
Yeah.
no choice versus, oh, but there's all these exciting things and all these people I get to meet and all these things
Mhm.
that I want to do. I don't know. I think that maybe we have
Yeah.
that as a benefit as writers. I don't know. Just a
Yeah.
thought.
And I fully believe gathering that email first because each one of my bonus epilogues gets put into an automation. Um, and I will link them and be like, oh, hey, I saw that, did you grab your bonus epilogue? Oh, then, another email, hey, here's the next book in that series. And then in another email, you can be like, hey, remember this scene? That's this book, that's this one. So you get that ability to recapture them again. So maybe they didn't see all those links, but as you're sending them emails, you get that option to recapture them. So then they're seeing it in the back of the book, they're seeing it in the bonus epilogue, they're seeing it in the emails, and that's three touches right there of your next book. And I feel like that that's when they're the warmest because they're remembering the story, they remember the details, and they don't quite want that feeling to end. They don't want the book hangover just yet. So if you can extend the experience for them, then I think that's when they're most likely to buy again.
Do you
And
have a
how
separate automation for every bonus epilogue? So like at the end of every book, you've got this bonus epilogue and then or
I
is it?
did at one point, and that was a lot. So what I do now is I have a different automation for each series, and I have it where they can get the bonus epilogues, also on a website, on a page on my website that is password protected, and the password is at the bottom of all my emails. Um, so now it's a series. They get each epilogue goes to that series automation. So it talks about the different books in the series, and then like if I finish writing a book, I can go in and add in different emails and everything to that automation. Did I see a lot of good interaction when I did each individual epilogue? Absolutely. I just don't have the time to do that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
fair enough.
But
How
by
many
series is still a lot, right? So especially as
hmm
your series grow. So they think yeah, there's only so
Yeah.
many hours in the day, right?
Yeah. And it's on my to-do list to actually go back and redo a lot of my automations because they haven't been touched in a
Yeah.
couple of years.
Yeah, I think that's
So it is on the to-do list to expand with it and see what's working, see what's not. It's just again, time.
Yeah.
yeah.
So how many newsletters would they receive if they joined up in the back of a book?
So they get the welcome emails. And my welcome series, depending on the series that it is, could be up to 15 emails,
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
spaced out over a couple months for that welcome sequence. My longer series, I want to make sure that I am introducing them to, the books in that series, making sure that they got their bonus epilogues. If I have a reader magnet attached to that series, I will make sure they got that reader magnet because now they're on my newsletter list. They would have access to all those freebies. Um, I'm I'm adding an email where I'm educating them where to get all their freebies. So I get a lot of people, I don't know I'm on your email. I can't get this person's bonus epilogue. Okay, well, here's where you need to go with the password. And so I'm educating them where that is. I'm adding in emails for libraries and saying, hey, you can get my books in libraries. Hey, here's a coupon to get, a discounted book at my store, so I'm trying to move them from the retailers to my store. Um, I'm telling them about, hey, these books are what's linked to this series. Did you see, this actor wrote a letter to this person in the series, and here's that series, and let me tell you a little bit about that. I'm explaining who I am because I'm treating it as if they have no idea who I am. So I mix in with information about me, trying to get them to reply, hey, where do you live? Tell you a little bit about me, tell me about you. And I get people that will one of my best emails in my automation is, hey, where are you from? Like I run different sales to you know, different areas. I would love to know where you are. And I give them a picture of my mountain view off my front porch during fall with all the leaves changing, just telling them where I'm at. And I get so many replies of people sending me pictures of their views from their front porch
Oh,
just in
wow.
reply and
Yeah.
just striking up a short conversation. And I try to reply to every one of them because it's really good for the email services. I don't always get to, but I try. And so it's just kind of that interaction. And then during that time, they're also getting any new release emails that I have, any new releases that I have, they're getting those emails. And then once they're done with that welcome sequence, they get dumped into what I call my backlist email sequence. And every other week, they're getting an email of a book from my backlist that I have set up, but just automations. It's either, hey, do you love Friends to Lovers? I have all these Friends to Lovers books. Like, have you checked any of these out? Or I'll give them a chapter one of a book of like one of my standalones, and I'll make sure I edit it so it's left on a cliffhanger. Or I'm introducing another series. So it kind of runs them through my backlist because I forget who said it, but I remember hearing someone say that most readers will not see 90% of your backlist unless you tell them about it.
Mm.
I
And
feel
I wish
like
I
it
could
was
remember who said
Larissa
that and give them
Reynolds,
credit.
actually. We had her on many years ago, but she was talking
Mhm.
about it then, but I could be wrong, but it feels
It
like,
very well could have been, yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So
That's
that's a lot of emails. Like
It
they're
is.
still there, like, they're fans, right? They're
Hmm.
fans if they haven't,
Yeah,
noped out of that sort
yeah,
of earlier on. So that's fantastic. So
yeah.
they go from kind of semi-warm to, I would say,
Hmm.
nice and warm.
Yeah. And one thing I do offer is when they do unsubscribe, and if my emails are not for them, I want them to unsubscribe because I
Of
don't want to pay for
course.
them.
Yeah.
On that unsubscribe page, I have it customized to say, hey, if you only want emails about new releases, make sure you're
Yeah.
following me on Amazon, on BookBub, on Goodreads, and you will only get notifications when I have a new book out. So I'm getting
Yeah.
them to follow me in other places. I do have a list that is also just new releases, so they can say, I will stay on your email, but only send me a new release email. So I do have a segment that is only new release emails as well.
Yeah. Who do you use as your newsletter provider?
MailerLite.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
and so are they
I
are
keep
you
thinking, I'm like, I could try this and try that, but I'm like, I don't want to move all my
I
emails over.
know. I totally get it. I totally get it.
are you so when you have that 2 months of them being on your welcome sequence,
Mhm.
they're not getting your normal emails, are
Mm.
they? Or are they?
New release.
Not usually, not unless it's something really big. They will get new releases. They will get emails like I am in the Stuff Your Earbuds event that's coming up later this week, so they will get that email because that's something that is, limited time. They'll get those super special emails, but they won't get my weekly emails. No.
Yeah. Until they're out of that sequence, and then you just put them onto your main list. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
That's cool. That
Yep.
makes sense. Perfect. So that's a awesome. That's a lot. Like
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just processing all of that. But
Yes.
that's all part of the universe building in my mind. It's like
Hmm.
the fact that you're kind of bringing them back in and you're saying, "Hey, look,
Hmm.
did you pick up this and that?" Do you have any other
Hmm.
tips for how you do that aside from your mailing list? Are you doing it on social media as well, or what do you do?
My Facebook group, I do a lot of posts like, hey, if you want an update on this couple, don't forget this book over here. Or I'll hint to them and be like, oh, this book's coming out, and you know what? I can't believe it. This band just visited this town. Like, I can't believe it. They're gonna be there. Are you guys excited? I'll put stuff like that up. But it's a lot of being very intentional. And I have worked backwards on a lot of my stuff, trying to incorporate stuff that was not incorporated before. Um, So I have my Club Red series and I'm looking at, the next book and I'm like, okay, I have to write the heroine because I'm in the plotting stages for that. And my readers are very upset that I had to delay that one due to the storm, but I'm getting this through. But I looked at it and I'm like, okay, this heroine, how can she be linked? Because I've already linked all the guys in book one through, they're all friends for the club. Like, how can this heroine be linked to somewhere else in my universe? And I had a standalone set in Las Vegas, my only book ever set in Las Vegas. And the girl, the heroine in that book was a Vegas dancer, and I'm like, well, I mentioned her friend, but then that was it. I'm like, so I'm bringing her friend in as one of the heroines, by making just a few tweaks in my plotting. Um, I try to make sure that I'm doing those different things. And even in collabs, I did the Club Sin collab, which is another sexy club. I don't want to say and get you guys in trouble,
Oh,
but
that's okay.
it's
Don't
okay. It's a BDSM club.
worry.
And so I made sure that while I was in that Club Sin world, they then also ended up back in Chicago for my Club Red and had part of that book there, so that then when I pull that book out of that collaboration, it then is able to be put into my Club Red world very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just being intentional, right? Like thinking
Hmm.
about what you're doing and not, yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you're like
Yeah.
a pantser, which I guess
Hmm.
you could still do that, right? Like you could still say, hey, look,
Hmm.
I just know that at some point I'm going to need to incorporate this
Hmm.
this character. Are you a plotter
Hmm.
though? I'm imagining you're probably a plotter.
I am. I was not at the beginning. I completely pantsed my first series because I had had it in my head for 10 years. And then that last book, I wrote myself into a corner and it took me way too long to get myself out that I almost missed my publishing deadline. Um, and so then I'm like, okay, well, I at least need to know where I'm going for the Black Moment, and I need to have like an idea. And each series, it kind of got more and more of a plotting to it because I want to make sure I have the overarching stories and everything. And then, yeah, now I kind of plot out almost chapter by chapter the different things that need to be in each one. And when I'm thinking those out, sometimes an entire conversation between characters will pop into my head, and I write that down and make sure to include later. Um, and I keep a spreadsheet of side characters that I mentioned. Um,
Mm.
so I'm like, okay, well, my football book was one of my standalones, and I had no intention of writing another football book, but readers kept asking for his friend's story, so I wrote his name down. I'm like, I can incorporate him somewhere else. Anytime I write a side character, I think, do I want to write their story,
Hmm.
and incorporate them somewhere else? If I do, I'll put them on the spreadsheet. If I don't, I make sure that they are with someone else or they are married and there's no way that I can put their happily ever after together. So I thought, until readers said, well, can you go back and write their story? Yes, they're already together, but can you go back and write their story on one of my books? And I was like, okay. So I put it down and I haven't done it yet, but I put it down and I've been trying to figure out how I can do that because if the readers want it and you get a few vocal requests, the chances
Hmm.
are there's a lot of silent people that are not
Yeah.
reaching out that also want a
Yeah.
story.
I thought you were going to say that they're asking you to kill off the like the one they were married to,
Partner.
so they can.
No, no, no.
So no
Oh.
bloodthirsty
Although,
readers, just
yeah, no, I have not done that. I don't think I would be able to do that because once I give characters like that happily ever after, like in my mind, they're together forever. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter how many generations down I go. I don't know if I could kill off any of my main characters like that.
I'm pretty sure that back in the day, a few authors, and when the trade war had done that, and oh boy, that was, that was a
well, they
bold move.
killed off Han Solo, and I'm sorry, but that's
Mhm.
wrong. And they
I
split
agree.
him and Leia up. I was just like, what are they thinking here, people?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another. So,
Well, I had one book where the hero's mother died, and it was essential to move the story plot along, but I got so many readers that were mad about it. My editor gets mad when I'm like when she knows that a certain character is going to die in a series, and she gets so mad. She's like, "Well," and she tries to feed me every book. Well, maybe this and this can happen, so you don't have to kill him. I'm like, nope, it's part of the story plot. He's going to have to go. Well, what about that? But nope.
that's so funny. They want it, but they don't want it at the same time.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So is there any, like, before we move on to your print sales, which
Mhm.
we do quickly,
Yeah.
is there anything else? Anything else that you need to mention about world building, sorry, universe building as opposed to world
Hmm.
building?
Um, so I had helped a friend with her catalog. She had not done this, and one of the best pieces of advice that I can give is set aside some time and go to the store and get the sticky notes, the ones that are say super sticky, the ones that stick to everything, and just write your book titles out on sticky notes and kind of put them up on a wall. We did this on a window. I actually have pictures of it that I've shared where like we put her whole back catalog up and kind of see where they all connect. It's a lot easier to do when it's visual and in front of
Mm.
you than trying to link it on like a spreadsheet or link it on paper where you've got, four pieces of paper you're trying to put together. And see where those connections are. And see what you want your reader journey to really be through your backlist. And then make a note of where you need to have those books that are going to bridge a series or bridge a book together. And then as you're writing going forward, just look at that list and be like, oh, I can connect this because I need a lawyer in this book. So it could be the lawyer from this book, and then that connects this book to this connection here. And sometimes you'll find that you're doing it almost second nature at that point. But once you can get them into your books and all of your books connect to another book, then you have this big reader journey that kind of circles around and you'll see like my backlist is what makes me money. Yes, I see a nice boost when I release a new book, but it's always my backlist that is my money maker every month, every year. I mean, my best-selling books are ones that I published in 2021.
It's
They
Wow.
fantastic.
outsell my front list every time.
Wow. That's interesting. So, do you ever have timing issues? Like I have connected books and it drove me
Hmm.
mental trying to figure out who was doing what when and how was I going to make sure that I didn't get the
Hmm.
timing wrong. Is that ever an issue or is it you
Hmm.
just make sure that it's in the past?
I always look at it as, okay, if I'm writing this book today, then if the couple is together, because I've already written their story, then the couple is together.
Mm.
And I don't necessarily mention kids because I don't always remember who has had kids. But I will mention it as a couple. I find it easy sometimes too when you only bring one person in from
Mhm.
a couple, because then they can kind of give an update a little bit on the other one without it seeming really like you're just putting it in to put it in.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because if it's a friend, they're gonna be like, "Hey, how's Lexi? What's going on with you guys?" And it's just natural to do the updates. And it's funny that you say this because I was the series that I write with Dylan. We were going back and forth, and we're planning out our next season for next year. And I looked at her and I said, we now have 24 books set in this town. And I don't remember who's married and who's not married. I'm like, we need to start January with all the other couples married. They're all married. I'm like, I can't keep track of it. So well, I'm setting it up because I write December's book where it's kind of like a parade of weddings now that they've fought off this bad guy for the series. Now they're all going to get married. They're all having this big, week of weddings between Christmas and New Year's because I just need everybody to be married because I I'm so worried I'm gonna upset someone by saying someone isn't married or someone
Yeah.
is, and my readers are gonna be like, "What happened?"
Yeah. I love that.
Share, you're muted. Anyway, so let's move on quickly to print. We're almost at the end of the interview,
Okay.
so we've talked, but
Okay.
just you mentioned that you do really well with print sales
Yes.
and not just like the special editions that kind of people are talking about these days, but like
Hmm.
actually just normal print sales of your book. So what do
Yes.
you think you've done differently, or what is helping you with those print sales?
So I want to say I don't have any special editions currently. I other than a couple Kickstarters that Dylan and I did, and those are not for sale on a regular basis. So I don't have any special editions. Um, I promote a lot of them via blind date with a book boyfriend, where I should have had one here with me, but they get wrapped up and they pick a trope. So they will pick friends to lovers, and then they will get any one of my books that has a friends to lovers trope in it. And all of them are my books, all of them come signed, and all of them come with swag. And I always try to make sure that I'm doing the series books as much as possible, because if they're getting book two, most people are going to be like, oh, I really want to read this book, but I should read at book one first. So then that encourages them to go back and read the series. Um, and I find that the ones that order the Blind Date with a Book Boyfriend and they order that paperback, they're generally paperback readers. So then they're going to go back and buy the paperback of that series.
So is that a
Um,
direct sale from your website? Is that what that is? Yeah.
from my website, and TikTok shop.
Okay.
I have also found that when you offer swag, and you don't have to offer a ton of swag, I see some authors go a little overboard because you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on your cost and making sure that it's all cost effective to you and you're not going to lose money. But when you offer swag, and if you can personalize that swag to a series, readers go crazy over it. I have my Mountain Men. I have two bookmarks that are the cover models for those books, the top two cover models that they love. And I have stickers that are specifically related to that series. I have pens. Readers love a pen. I don't they go crazy when you send them a pen because they weren't expecting it. That's the most just common comment I get on that. And then I always send a postcard that thanks them for buying, but then also has a coupon code to my website for their next purchase, and has a QR code that takes them to my website. And I send a postcard with my reading list in it. So it has all the books. So they can see, oh, I just got this book, but it's in this series, and here's the books for that series. Um, and just keeping them really engaged with it. And I do, if you go and look at my TikTok, if you go way back, there was a lot of books, a lot of videos with my face on them, and they were really, really bad. So don't go too far back. But I started doing it where I have my phone mounted and it's just videoing of my hands wrapping the books, signing, wrapping the books, putting the swag in. And then I do a voiceover explaining that book or talking about the series, and just doing kind of a scene from the book. And I will put those on TikTok and I will do them over and over and over again. And then when one of them does really well on TikTok, I take that and I put that in a Facebook ad to the paperbacks on my store. And if it's doing really well on TikTok, it does amazing as a Facebook ad.
Wow.
So I kind of use
Okay.
TikTok as my
Yeah.
free thing to try out and
Yes.
see how organic that video will do, and then move it to Facebook. And then just keeping in mind that paperback readers are different than ebook readers most of the time. And then just offering the upsells. I do a bundle. So like my Mountain Men, I do a paperback bundle where they can get the whole series at a discount than what you would buy um, each individual book at. And then they get special series swag that they don't get if they buy each individual book. Um, and I also charge more for my paperback signed than I do on non-signed book on Amazon. And I learned that one from I think it was Ivy Smoke. I believe it was Ivy Smoke that said that you should be charging more because you're actually touching the book, you're putting your signature in it, and your signature is worth something to readers.
Yeah.
So it's important to keep that in mind.
Who do you use to print your paperbacks, Kaci?
I was using KDP, and I had no problems until about 6 months ago, and now every box, 50% of them are either misprinted or damaged. So I am currently experimenting with other printers. I'm trying to keep trying Ingram and Book Vault to see if, yes, they're a little bit more expensive, but if I'm getting better quality paperbacks and I'm not having to deal with filing complaints on every damaged book and taking 20 pictures of the books and the back matter to prove and get my money back from Amazon, the time that I would save would be worth it to pay the extra money.
Absolutely.
Because I'm ordering, when I place an order on Amazon, it's 1,000 something books at a time, like when I'm ordering books. So saving that kind of time would be huge for me.
That's ridiculous.
So annoying that they can't get that right,
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there anything else? Any other things that people need to keep in mind? Anything you um are doing for print sales? It's mostly direct sales when you're talking about
Hmm.
print sales. Yeah.
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 Direct sales, keeping it fun. I always make sure, little things like if you, I know that you guys don't have access to TikTok Shop, but if you're selling paperbacks on TikTok Shop, don't personalize them because if the reader decides to send it back, TikTok will automatically approve a refund whether you want to or not. And then once you get that book back, you can't do anything with it because it's personalized to someone else. Now, if they have a
Mm.
generic name like Ashley, you might get someone down the road
Mhm.
whose name is Ashley and buys the book that you could use. But the chances are so slim. Um, and then I always say on my store, if I'm happy to personalize on my store, but then that product is not returned or not refundable.
Mhm.
Um, and then another thing that I'm just starting to experiment with is selling my damaged books.
Mm,
Mhm.
Um, I learned this one from Willow Winters. She has
yeah.
rabid fans that's every Monday she publishes, well, as of last I heard, she publishes her damaged books and they sell out. So I was like,
Mhm.
well, I'm gonna put mine up and you put them at a discount because generally you've already gotten your money back from Amazon and they
Mhm.
don't want those books back. So they've been sitting here and I'm like, well, let me put them up. And readers appreciate the discount because they will buy them. They don't care if the cover's bent, if they are getting a discount and that's all that they
Mhm.
can afford and they want to have that book on the shelf. Um, so, and I'm very clear with them. A lot of them have issues with like the glue is on a page or it's a miscoloration or the cover's bent or I have some that looks like mud got splattered on the pages. So
Oh
it's I
gosh.
have another one where you can tell there was a footprint on it. I'm like, did this person step
These
on it and then put it back in the
Oh
poor
my
books,
gosh.
your poor books. What have they
yeah,
been through?
Where's the
yeah.
love?
Yeah, so and readers actually they're like, oh, I wonder which one I'm gonna get. And then I've had one person message like put in the notes, they're like, can I have the one that had the footprint on it?
That's
But yeah,
hilarious.
they kind of find it interesting to, and some of them they message me and they're like, I was supposed to have a damaged book. This one's not damaged, and I'm like, well, technically it is, and I'm like, show me, and I'll have to kind of they'll send me a picture, and I'm like, oh, to me the spine ripped when they were at the top when they were separating it, and I
Right.
won't sell that as a regular
No.
book, and so they're like, oh, I didn't even notice that. So most of the
Mm.
time we notice stuff that they won't.
Yeah.
So are
Yeah.
you fulfilling these orders yourself from home?
Yes. Currently, my parents are retired and amazing, and even though that they live a couple hours away, we meet up once a month, and they actually wrap all my blind date books, and my dad will wrap them, and my mom will put all the swag in, which I try not to think too hard about when I'm saying when I'm my dad's wrapping my BDSM book or like my
Just
father's best friend books, like he's wrapping those, and I'm like,
just la la la
one
la
of the
la.
it's one of those like don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so they will do that, and then we'll meet up and we'll have lunch once a month, and in the parking lot, and I'm loading, giving them new books to
That's
wrap, and
so
I'm taking the wrapped
nice.
ones, and they help out.
Oh.
And I'm currently having what I call a book barn built in my backyard, where I'm going to move all of my books in, and move all the shipping processes there so that I can bring in someone part-time or eventually full-time to help out.
Yeah.
But right now, I currently have 3 storage units rented to store and hold books
Wow.
because I just don't have the room in my house.
Yeah.
We hear that story a lot just recently. We've
Yeah.
actually, it's just like
Yeah.
it's a nightmare, really, but
Yeah.
a
Well,
good problem to
yeah,
have.
good problem, right?
Yeah.
It
Like,
is. It
I
is.
love the idea of a book barn. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
And then you could always turn that into an Airbnb in one corner because, like, who wouldn't want to be staying in a book barn? Come on.
Right. Yeah, it'll have multiple uses. Eventually, if I ever have to move to like an office space or something,
Yeah.
not if, when I have to, when I'm doing so well that I'm very much a universe, you put it out into the universe. So when I'm
Yeah.
doing so well that I eventually, have a retail or a space or an office space,
Mm.
that can have other uses as well.
Mm,
Yeah.
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 And do you have assistants other than mum and dad?
I have virtual assistants. So I
Mhm.
have my PA, that does a lot. She helps with emails. She helps with anything that I need right now. Her current job is sending out all my Christmas cards. I sent her address or address labels that I had signed, so she's putting stickers in the Christmas cards with my signature, and she is processing all my Christmas cards because we had way more people than I expected to sign up for
Oh,
them. Um, and then I have a friend of mine helps with social media. She's very much a book person, but she's not really in the book world, so she's really good with like keeping up with Instagram, and my TikTok comments and stuff that I can't keep
mm,
up with. And then I have another PA that kind of helps with the book Bible stuff. Keeping up with my book Bible, she'll read all my books and make sure I have everything put in there. And she helps with promo and things like that too.
Nice.
And then
very
I have
cool.
someone that helps with ads. I should add that. I have someone that helps with ads. And then I have someone that does just his specialty is just my email for my store. And he manages all that back. I had set all that up myself and I was sending the emails, but I brought him in to send out the weekly emails, to curate emails, to work on those automations like my abandoned cart and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, because I just can't keep up with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Well, you just have a little bit of writing to do as
Yeah,
well.
just a couple
So,
of
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
So with your
That's
store, I'm assuming you're using Klaviyo. Do you
Yes.
kind of combine the lists if you like? Do you take the people that are on that Klaviyo list and have them on your mailer light as well, or how are you managing that?
I do keep them separate, but a lot of times when they get now I haven't been very good about giving the people that buy the books the bonus scene in there. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people say, "Oh, well, I have a separate file that has the bonus scene just for my store." And I'm like, "But they're now also signing up for my mailer lite where I have different emails that kind of go with my backlist and everything over there." But I definitely offer coupon codes and freebies for my mailer lite list to get them over to my store.
Yeah.
Um, Anytime I have a sale on my store, it gets mentioned in Mailer Lite, but I don't want to combine them because you're
Mm-hmm.
always going to have people that say, no, I want to buy from Amazon. No, I would rather buy from Kobo.
Yeah.
No, I'm reading that in a library, but I want to know when it's available. Um, so
Yeah.
you're not gonna be able to convert everyone to your store, and I still want
Yeah.
to be able to reach everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah.
mm,
yeah, yeah,
that's fantastic.
Plus, if they're on both lists, they get two new release emails.
yeah,
So if they miss one, they see the other.
yeah.
Perfect. That's fantastic. So I feel like as much as we could keep talking to
Uh,
you, and it's been fascinating, I feel like we might have reached the end of our time together here. Have you
Okay.
got just one little nugget that you can give to our listeners, just something to leave them with that's going to make them inspired and
Mhm.
go forth and conquer? Just a little thing like that, you know.
Um, oh, um, it's never too late to start linking your books. I recently talked with someone who had over 100 books in her backlist, and she is starting to link them, and she's actually having fun doing it with linking the different ones, and she's realizing that she linked some without really realizing that she did. Um, and you don't have to do it all at once. It can be done slowly. If you put a book on sale, go back and check the back matter and change it then. You don't have to sit down and change 100 book back matter, this week.
Mm,
Um, do it slowly, and have fun with it. If you're having fun, readers are going to have fun with it. And definitely hint about it in your groups and hint about it in social media and let them start getting used to the fact that you're doing it, and then they'll start talking about it themselves.
that's
love
brilliant.
that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to find you or your books, where can they go?
I am most active in my Facebook reader group, Kaci's Roses, on Facebook. I don't manage my Instagram myself. I do have TikTok, but I am not over there on a regular basis. So either email, or Facebook would be the best ways if you have any questions to reach out to me.
That's fantastic.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
Right.
And Shah, where can we be found?
We can be found at spargirlspodcast.com, and we're on YouTube and on Insta and on Facebook at spargirlspodcast.com, and we are on Patreon at Spargirls Podcast.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you to all of our listeners who've joined us for another episode of the Spa Girls podcast. We'll be back again next week, but for now, farewell.
Keep well.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.